In today's episode, we're going to be looking at 10 PlayStation 2 games that are definitely underappreciated, not necessarily hidden gems, but games that you may have missed. Now you can call me crazy if you want, because Biker Mice from Mars actually flopped on the PlayStation 2, but for me this is a classic example of not judging a book by its cover, because I really enjoy this game. Not to mention I was a huge fan of the cartoon back in the day as well. Now the premise here is pretty simple. You can play throughout the game with Throttle, Vinny and Modo, of course, the mice, and you're pit against the Catatonians, but you're on bikes and you can collect various power-ups as you thrash through the streets. There's little stunts you can do as well, which I do think adds lots of flair and character, which for me just gives it that edge and makes this game stand out more. Another thing that I really like about this is the visuals. It's got that really nice soft colour palette and almost cel-shaded-esque kind of graphics. I don't know why people or critics and gamers alike slammed this game so much, because it feels and handles incredibly well when you play it.
Press the secondary weapon button to fire them. They're powerful.
The music and sound effects aren't half bad either. So I think if you're a fan of Biker Mice from Mars, I definitely think you should take the plunge on this. It's not overly expensive. I've seen it go for as low as £10 online. You definitely need to grab yourselves a copy of Biker Mice from Mars on the PlayStation 2 and take on these dastardly Catatonians.
Yeah, damn straight. Yo, you seen KG lately? Maybe he got busted.
Sadly, at this time of filming, I don't own Urban Reign, but I played the heck out of this with my friend Sivek back in the day. Now, if you think back to those classic 2D side-scrolling beat-em-ups that we all grew to love, such as Streets of Rage and Final Fight, add in a little bit of a 3D twist and you could argue that you get Fighting Force, but Fighting Force this is not. Oh no, this is Urban Reign. You can play a single player or multiplayer as you smash your way through the hardcore streets, picking up weapons and items and fighting the best fight you could possibly do in order to beat the levels. There's some gnarly moves that do seem incredibly familiar, and I will say that this is an absolute categorical 100% must. If I haven't hammered that home, you need to buy this game. Primal, released in 2003, was arguably ahead of its time. Digressing slightly, if you want to pick up a copy of this game, I bought it from Cash Converters for 50p. So I definitely suggest you listen to this segment. You can control between two players. You have Jen in human form and Scree, and each of the players have different abilities, and when you're in control of one, depending on environments, Jen, for example, if you're not controlling her, will just randomly run around and do different things depending on where you are. The battle mechanics of Jen feel incredibly fluid, and it depends on what kind of form Jen is in, because she can actually take the form of a demon and unlock different abilities, speed boost, strength boost, etc. But be warned, these aren't natively unlocked. You need to progress to unlock them, so there's definitely challenges along the way. For me, this reminds me weirdly of Soul Reaver. Perhaps it's that shimmering green glow that you were so familiar with Raziel back on the PlayStation 1. But maybe Jen in human form might not be your thing. Perhaps you like a stone gargoyle like Scree. Scree doesn't take any damage, so that's absolutely wicked. It's almost like you can send him off into the front just to check out the path that lays ahead. Or maybe you want Scree to climb some kind of wall. Scree can do it all, so he's pretty handy to have on side. Overall, Primal adds a really nice balance of combat, puzzle and adventure. So that's why I included it, because it doesn't get enough love. Smugglers Run is a ton of fun, and no, that wasn't meant to rhyme. The premise is incredibly simple, and for me that's what I really enjoyed about this back in the day. I have very fond memories playing this again with my friend Sivek. We tended to play a lot of PlayStation 2 and original Xbox together. But this is super duper easy. You have to transport cargo to different points on the map. There are, of course, different terrains. I only demo the first couple of missions here, but nonetheless, the basic premise is simple. But the missions do get progressively harder. The terrain can become incredibly bumpy, jumpy and chaotic at times, and of course you have to dodge the police, so you really do need your wits about you when it comes around to playing Smugglers Run. Now for some of the finer points that I enjoy. Take a look at the sky, for example, and the different shades within the sky, and the different shapes of clouds. I think Smugglers Run did a great job at delivering a simple premise, but adding lots of finesse and detail, and I think again that's what drew me to it back whenever I first started playing this game. There are, of course, other modes that you can check out, such as Turf War and Joyriding. I think for me, though, the Joyriding element is so true no matter what mode you pick. There's no stopping at the red light here. There's no letting the pedestrians get out of your way in Smugglers Run. This is fast, this is frantic, this is hella fun. And again, I couldn't imagine my underappreciated PlayStation 2 game list without banging a bit of Smugglers Run into your faces.
Protocol number 75-39.
Mars. I always thought of it as a romantic place, a planet of mystery and adventure.
Leave me alone, jerk. It's been a long...
Not only did the opening cutscenes right there look absolutely stunning, but the entire IP of Red Faction has always been close to my heart. I did play it the most on the PlayStation 3 though, but I did play it first with this on the PlayStation 2. Now the PlayStation 2, this is a bit of a fact here, this does have different features compared to the PC version, because you can have kind of offline split screen mode featuring your deathmatch kind of rounds. It is really, really cool, and again, if you're into a little bit of couch co-op, I think for me this is definitely where you're going to find lots of fun, and especially of course if you're a first person shooter fan. Red Faction is incredibly engrossing, and throughout my playtesting for this episode, this was the title that I spent the most time with. I didn't want it to end, but unfortunately it did. I might actually bang out a Twitch stream on this at twitch.tv/thegebs24 if you want to give me a cheeky follow. But self-promotion to one side, Red Faction is a beast of a title. Single player, multiplayer, first-person shooter action, really nice mechanics, gorgeous graphics, and a decent plot.
I've been watching the riots on security monitors. You're the only miner from M4 to make it this far. Be careful, Parker.
XG3 Extreme Racing, wow, that was a mouthful. That's probably the only downside to this game though, because if you think Wipeout and F-Zero, having a baby, this would more than likely be the product. One of the gameplay mechanics that is so unique to this is that you can actually steer using L2 and R2. Of course you can use the D-pad and the analog stick, or you can use them in tandem with one another to take on those really sharp corners. But I actually found that the L2 and R2 work really well for being able to control this. There's a little bit of Mario Kart style stuff in here because you can grab projectiles and use them to dismantle your fellow racers. There are, of course, lots of different tracks to choose from. We can't actually choose because you have to go through the championships to unlock them. And the same can be said even if you just go on like a practice or kind of non-championship mode. So definitely give this one some time. It's really rewarding and it's quite hypnotic to play. And let's face it, guys, looking at the gameplay, it's pretty hypnotic to watch as well. This, again, is quite cheap. You're probably looking at a couple of quid from CEX. Way of the Samurai is unfortunately not in my personal collection, but it was in my life during my second year at university. This is a really nice game, and coming off the back of growing up with Tenchu on the PlayStation 1, I was very much in tune to buying this when it came out. We play as Kenji, and there's loads of different swords Kenji can utilise, and you can also tweak how sharp your sword can be. I think there's over 50 swords. I may have got that number wrong there, but I do remember being absolutely floored with just how much versatility. Back in the day, you felt you could just change with your sword, and it just felt fresh. It gave it that freshness when you played it. And I forgot how nice this felt. Aside from sometimes having top-heavy conversations in the cutscenes, the combat is really what carries this game. So check it out. This is Way of the Samurai. It definitely needs way more love.
This automated train is provided.
The PlayStation 2 was the only console that Half-Life came out on. Of course, it was enveloped in Microsoft Windows and Mac OS. It did, of course, feel revolutionary for its time. I mean, the opening intro alone takes a good 5 minutes as you're gliding through the various environments on the train while the credits pop up. It kind of felt like a masterpiece before the gameplay had even started. And even when the gameplay did start, just the kind of grotesque enemies on the screen, the notion of mutilating them with a crowbar. I mean, back in the day, this for me did push the visual boundaries and the visual aspect of kind of the adding horror into video games. The narrative of this game really resonated with me. Honestly, this game could have been developed for the NES. If it carried the same narrative, I would have felt just as mesmerised. The narrative I felt was that of isolation and loneliness. You don't even see Gordon Freeman's face, and I remember that very vividly. Like, what does this guy look like? And who are, there were loads of questions. But you're meandering through these halls, coming across NPCs only to get the very smallest of help and of course dialogue. But I just wanted to play more. That kept me hooked. I wanted my questions answering, and I think that just carried on to Half-Life 2, and unfortunately we're never going to get a Half-Life 3, which destroys my soul. But nonetheless, we can play this back on console, PS2, and of course there are Dreamcast kind of cancelled ROMs floating about of this as well, so I guess there's always that to be had. If you didn't have a PlayStation, you wanted to play it on a console, you could always pop it into the Dreamcast. Obviously, don't know where you're going to get it from, maybe your friends have got a copy, but nonetheless, let's buckle up, let's take our 27-year-old Gordon Freeman and just enjoy this amazing masterpiece of a game.
got 6 days left.
Bully, or rather Canis Canem Edit as it was known here in the UK, 100% is overshadowed by the Grand Theft Auto series. Of course, there are rumours of a Bully 2 that had now been cancelled, and I don't blame Rockstar as this unfortunately did flop if you do compare it to the monstrous numbers of Grand Theft Auto sales. But there's no denying how majestic and how kind of unique this concept was at a time. I mean, let's write a video game and make a video game about a bully who bullies bullies and just runs rampant around the school. I mean, it's classic Rockstar formula. There's a couple of things that I would have liked to have seen more of. Of course, the map is incredibly small. I do think that this could have been a massively huge open world. But nonetheless, I feel like this game was a little bit of an experiment for Rockstar, and who knows, maybe somewhere in the vaults of all of the Rockstar offices over the world, maybe there is a copy of Bully 2 lurking in somebody's drawers. I mean, I don't know. Is it a game that you'd want to see?
That's Russell's luck.
So I'm choosing to pay homage to Jimmy Hopkins and co. Taking part in the maths classes, the history classes, the art classes, all of it was absolutely mint. And of course, it was marginally revamped for the Xbox as well of later years. Pretty cool, and I'll answer my own question that I asked earlier. I would love to see a sequel to this. The Suffering is a pretty brutal experience that really did give Silent Hill a run for its money. Torque, that is our main character. Torque is a highly trained killer that fills his rage meter. And when it's full, you can obviously imagine what happens. We don't just kill, we take the form of a monster and we destroy the enemies that burden our path. This was so much fun to play. It kind of added a little bit of the Rockstar naughtiness into some of the kind of Silent Hill experiences. It's quite depraved in many areas, and I think that's where that Silent Hill, for me, that element comes in. I really enjoyed this, and of course we know it's available on other platforms as well. But we're talking solely about the PlayStation version today. It still looks pretty good, and it's one that unfortunately I don't have on my PlayStation, but it is on my Birmingham Retro Gaming Market list, and as I film this, we take that challenge on tomorrow. So whilst I can appreciate that some of those games aren't PlayStation exclusives, for me personally, I have the fondest memories of playing them on the PS2. What about you guys? Smugglers Run, Biker Mice from Mars, Urban Rain, absolute blinding titles. I would say out of that entire 10, Urban Rain is definitely the most expensive game. If you look on eBay, it's going from between anywhere from £20 up to £50, so it's quite pricey, but the bulk of the games that I discussed were 50 pence and upwards. If you're in the UK, you can check out Cash Converters, CEX, if not, your local retro game shop first and foremost. So there we go, 10 juicy titles to sink your teeth into. Perhaps they are not necessarily the critics' favourite, like I said, with Biker Mice from Mars. It didn't score very well, but it is a prime example. Don't ever judge a game by its cover or the reviews, but you've got to play it, feel it, hear it, and enjoy it for yourselves. So we're going to leave it there, guys. Plenty more PlayStation and loads of other content. I will link some cards for you if you want to go and check out another episode, but for now, leave a like and definitely subscribe. My name's Gemma. See you in the next one. I need a few seconds of your time to tell you about channel memberships. If you guys want to become a channel member, click join from the main page or the second link in the description. There are 3 tiers, all with different perks for you if you want to become a team member. Thanks for your time. Let's continue with the video.